But yeah, in case anyone isn't already familiar with it, this is Eldritch Eateries. This is the next game that we are going to be playing. And excellent. So I believe if everything is good to go, yeah. Eldritch Eateries by programming by Vimlark and art by White Vault. Made in 48 hours for the GMTK Jam. Theme joined together. Yeah, you play as a chef that has been taken by an eldritch horror named Velma. Your life and Velma's hunger are joined together as one. If she is full, you are safe. But if her hunger bar runs out, you are her next meal. Run into the pantry and cellar to find the creatures Velma wants to eat and prepare them the way she specifies. Okay. So I will get Vimlark on horn here. Hello, welcome.
Yo, how's it go?
Great, thanks. Yourself?
Good. Running around doing errands. My day off from streaming.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the stream here today. And yeah, answer a couple of the questions.
Yeah, no problem. This game was it was an experience.
Well, I'll go ahead and run it without further ado.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how well it comes across. Unfortunately, I tried to do a big tutorial in it, and it all broke. So then it didn't happen. People get confused, which is sad. Unfortunate aspects of time. Game jams, they happen.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I do, WSD and then the mouse click to pick things up and shoot. I'll look through this, but I'll go ahead and pose the first question here, which is, how did you decide on what you were going to make for the jam?
So White Vault and White Vault's another streamer friend of mine. He's a fantastic pixel artist. We were on a call. We watched the theme announcement like everybody else. I had the initial, two things chained together, platformer type thing jumping around. He had this really weird image that he had found of these like demigod like horror arms coming out of a door with cultists all around that he wanted to use as inspiration. And as you can see, we totally stuck to it really hard. Basically, we were playing around with the idea of giving things like sacrificing things to the demons, and we kind of came across the idea of basically just moving things would be boring. So I would have in fashion. So that kind of led into, okay, so now we need to feed them, give them food. So we'll need to make things, and then it kind of turned into also, what if we combine it with a twin stick shooter? So like here, if you click and shoot, you can stun all the little characters.
Oh, I see. I'm shooting these guys, and
those are just things. Yeah, actually, so the things on the wall are basically what they turn into. So that's what she's asking for. So like the wine would be that guy.
Yeah.
So you take that, and it goes into the fire one.
Oh, I see.
So you got to prepare it first.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got to take it over to the cauldron, actually, on the right there.
Yeah.
See, this is where it got confusing. I wanted to have a tutorial. Now it's going to have a little timer. Now you can run into one of the other rooms, go grab the next thing.
Yeah, so I'm looking for something that turns into a donut. Oh,
yeah, it's not specified well enough. That's one thing I need to fix up. You can't get out of the rooms until you get all of them. You got to stun all of them to open the door. Kind of roguelike-y style. And then the donuts, there's two rooms. Each room has 3 different creatures in it.
Okay. So we got to stun everything, and we got to grab this guy, and I think... okay, we got one order.
The definite number one thing that we've had for most people is it's confusing at first, but once you actually understand what's going on, it's not too bad. That's the problem, because right now, like, see, there's 3 different things to cook, and that's one thing I need to I didn't make as clear. You have the fridge in the back, the microwave, and the cauldron, and then each one of those has their corresponding like color with it. Yeah.
Well, let's see if this tied them over. Okay.
And you're going to get eaten.
I think I just barely made that one.
There you go.
No?
A little bit.
Okay, well, not enough. All right, let's finish these guys off. And yeah, because I'm realizing now, it's like these are the machines that correspond. So it's oh dear, didn't feed me enough. Oh boy, gonna give that another try. See if I can do better on my next try. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, you're all good. No, that's kind of the number one issue that I've had with this game is the clarity. I spent a awful lot of time at the very beginning trying to build a whole like I got the great idea. Why don't I just build each part as making the tutorial as well, so it just like steps you through, and then at the end I can just unlock it all and it'll all be perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah, the spaghetti code that involved out of that was just unmanageable and impossible to use caused me to have to rewrite the whole thing in the last like 12 hours.
Mhm.
So it was a fun
Ouch.
yeah, it is what it is. You know, it's game jam. It happens.
I
But yeah, so
wish.
I definitely learned. I definitely learned from that, and would love to have gotten. My biggest disappointment is that there's no like. I wanted to have just a step-by-step tutorial at the beginning to kind of just show you how to pick up the things. So I think once you understand it, it's fairly straightforward. It's getting people to understand what the goal is the first time, is though it's confusing.
Yeah. How much sleep did you actually get during this jam?
I slept fine the first night. I got no sleep the second night though. Um, I mean, the first night I got my normal, like, 6, 7 hours of sleep. But the second night after my stream on Saturday, I dug in around 7 o'clock. I basically worked from 7 p.m. to noon the next day or so straight.
Ouch.
Yeah, I don't advise doing that for game jams, and I normally don't. But I this Game Maker's Toolkit is because so I was lucky enough to place in the top 20 last year,
Nice.
and that put a ton of like self-imposed pressure on myself this year to the point of like probably it was more detrimental than anything, because I was so concerned that I had to like kind of live up to last year, which is what it is.
I don't know if I
That
need
kind
any
of
things in
stressful
this
stuff.
room. Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Like it's always this feeling of like I haven't had any of my games yet. Oh, I walked into the room, but I was already carrying something. But like just I do know what you mean, but just to a much smaller extent. Like when I released the oh come on, I thought I fed you five things. I thought I only had to get. Is there a somewhere I can see the progress on the meals that I'm required to feed? It was in the middle, this little number here between the two.
Yeah, that's the number in the middle. Yeah, that's how many meals you've
Okay, I must
fed.
have been one short.
You were one short.
Darn. Okay, see if I can do better this time. Um, but yeah, so I'm sorry. I know, like I read that you were going through like a fair bit of anxiety with this jam, and I guess that sort of comes with having like a really large following. And have you been able to like take some time and pace yourself and be feeling
Oh
a bit
yeah, I mean,
better?
I in general just deal with I have anxiety issues to begin with. Um, so that's just the general thing that I have. Actually, most of the issues I was having were unrelated to the Game Maker's Toolkit specifically. I was just having some anxiety issues and like stress issues before that. So leading into the jam, that just kind of put more on top of it. Um, but no, since then I've been good. I mean, other than I then turned around Monday night and was up until like 5 a.m. producing the devlog that I released yesterday about the game, just because, YouTube content creation and all that kind of stuff. You got to get stuff out at proper times and hit things while keywords are trending and those kinds of stuff. So right now, this week, people will be looking for Game Maker's Toolkit stuff.
Yeah,
So you got to get in there and do that kind of thing. But other than that, nah, I'm all good. Other than that, it's just the general stress of, trying to make stuff.
yeah. Like
Oh,
I'm
but yeah, in
just
terms of the jam, I'm really good at I do a lot of game jams, so I'm very much a I can do the game jam and then move on pretty quickly.
So I guess moving on to our next question here, which was, can you recommend a particularly useful shortcut or hack that others might not know of? And this was made in Unity.
Construct actually.
Oh, Construct. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a all your guys are in the cellar right now that you need.
Yeah, I see that there's actually specific enemies that spawn in specific locations. I just have to remember which one,
Yeah,
which.
so the ones on the wall, the things on the back are kind of like those are the enemies that will spawn in that room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Let's see. Yeah. So I use Construct 3. I'm more of a designer than a programmer. Like my main concern is game design, less on programming itself. So oh no.
Yeah, I messed up just at the last second there.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of. Useful tips in construct. I
Hmm.
mean,
Or even just like
uh,
any general dev advice.
general dev advice. I mean, my usual thing is, again, game jams are kind of my thing. But when you're doing a game jam, kind of the number one things to keep in mind, make it short and make it easy. So I made this too hard. That's actually one of the things that I'm a little unhappy with. Again, and I think a lot of the hardness comes from the uncertainty of what you're doing. It's just not clear enough, which is, I understand that. There's just also how do you explain? Like this game is it's fairly difficult to explain without just playing it a couple rounds.
Mhm.
And that's why like it really needs an in-game tutorial. But make your game as easy as possible and make it small and quick. Because the one thing people forget about is when people play game jam games, nobody wants to sit down and play an hour-long game. If you're making a puzzle game, don't put in 30 puzzles. Put in 10. Like nobody wants to sit through and play your game for an hour because when someone is playing game jam games, they want to play more than one jam game. They don't want to sit down for an hour and play one game. They want to play 3 games in an hour at least. So if you want to do well in terms of ratings and that kind of a thing, you need to make your game easier so that way people can finish it, and you need to make it short so that way people, when they finish it, are happy with the experience. If the best comment you can get on a game jam game is "I want more" or "I wish there was more levels," because that means you did exactly what you want and they left happy.
Yeah.
Generally, I mean, obviously, if you only have one level, then it's a little bit different. But for the most part, if that's the kind of comment you're getting, that's what you want to see. I feel like because that means that people enjoyed the experience, but it didn't overstay its welcome. And a game jam game runs the risk of overstaying its welcome really fast.
Yeah, for sure. I know that like I've played a couple of games on the stream here throughout these last couple days, and there have been some that have like just an astonishing amount of content in them. And I'm kind of limiting myself to only playing as far as the interview questions will take me. But
Yeah.
other than that, I think I grabbed the wrong thing here. I know I need one of these tentacle guys to go in the orange machine. All right.
Yeah, the microwaves are the fastest ones, so yeah, you gotta make sure you get the other ones. There you go.
Go, go, go. See if I
You're
can
almost
actually
there. You
clear
just gotta
level
get one
one.
more. So you just gotta get that one, and you're good.
All right.
You should have time. You got 12 seconds. That thing only cooks in 5.
Okay. Finally successful. You live longer. Okay.
You did it.
All right. I think I'm going to stay on the normal level while I
Yeah,
continue.
the hard is just more, and then the endless ended up borking up so bad I screwed up some sort of flag, and half the time
Mhm.
it it just doesn't finish. So it's literally endless, but you can never get a score. Game jams,
um,
right?
yeah, we've got a question coming in from chat. What are the discarded ideas that you had for this gem, and how did you settle on this idea?
Honestly, we jumped into this one pretty fast. Vault had a really strong opinion on the image that he liked, that he wanted to use as an inspiration, and I thought it was a good one because my usual thing is for myself is my first thought on a game jam, my first idea, I usually try to throw out, at least my first, because I assume most other people have thought of that as well, and it's going to be a common use thing, especially in a jam this size. I mean, this is, you've got 21,000 people, right? Ideas are going to come up. So, and then so the ideas of like things chain together, but this one, like like your life and health being tied together with something seemed, or joined together seemed just out there enough, but still made sense with fun, semi-proven mechanics. Like, I mean, Overcooked is considered to be a fantastic game. People love it, so I can't take away from that. Then the one thing we had to do is we actually had to tweak a lot because Overcooked is a multiplayer game. To tweak it for single player,
Mhm.
we removed all. You don't stand around at any point and like prepare items. You don't chop or do any of that. That was actually one thing we actively took out because in a multiplayer game, that tension of waiting is fun. In a
Yeah.
single player game, that tension of waiting is boring. Um, yeah, in terms of discarded ideas, we really didn't throw much else out. I mean, other than it was initially more of like a cultist bringing like offerings and sacrifices and things, but both Vault and I are much more. We're into making like we make cute games.
Mhm.
There's no no way of the like other way to say it. Like we make cute we like cute games, and that's just kind of the appeal and the aesthetic that we generally both produce. So we kind of thought it was funnier going this demented Hell's Kitchen route
Yeah,
as
quite literally
opposed
Hell's
to
Kitchen.
yeah. I mean, if that was actually a a very suggested name on the on the in our chats.
All right, I made it through much better that second time around.
There you go. So now, see, basically, now you've figured out what you're doing,
Yeah.
and now you're actually playing fine. That's the biggest issue with this game right there. Is like you could literally watch it happen. Is it takes fumbling around for like a couple of minutes. The problem is it fun enough for people to fumble around for those minutes to understand, or are they going to turn it off before they get there? That's always that tricky balance to find when you have complex mechanics. And again, and even the mechanics in this aren't even that complex. They're more, you know, they're pretty standard. If you've played Overcooked, it makes sense. If you haven't played Overcooked, this game is really confusing.
Yeah, I guess I have a little bit of experience playing Overcooked. I think I played through about half of the first game once they made it free at one point on the Xbox Live games. But I just remember getting feeling in Overcooked that like the game is a lot more about frustration and trying to mitigate that. And
Yes.
I just sort of looked over to my partner. I'm like, "Are we having fun playing this?" And she said, "No, we're not." So I was like, "Okay, you know what? I know that a lot of people play this game and they get angry at each other, but we're gonna hate the game, not the player, and we're just gonna step away from this and do something else."
Yeah. I mean, even like just the mechanic of like pick up, put there, cook something, take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think as long as people know that, it kind of works. But yeah, it's just yeah, it's one of those things. I'm happy with the gameplay. I'm unhappy with the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
I
it
think the
does.
gameplay is good and enjoyable. The way it is explained and taught to the player is not. And I feel like that's kind of my failing on this one. But I'm also, whenever I make a game or anything like that, like I care more about the things that I did wrong than the things that I succeeded at, mostly for not to like beat myself up over it, just for future reference of like, okay, how do I do better next time? Because I'm not the guy making, the 3 year long game. Game jams are kind of my thing. It's the content that I make in general, so I'm constantly doing them. So my goal is like, what other design lessons can I learn?
Yeah, I think that's a really healthy approach. I guess out of curiosity though, like, do you have a sort of like longer scope project that you would want to make if you had the time?
I've got two that are kind of running right now. I've had a game that I've been working on for like forever called Monkeys with Guns. It's kind of where all of my branding comes from. I think you stopped by the stream the other day if you saw
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
little monkeys running all over the screen.
Oh yeah.
Those are characters from that game. It's a 4 player arcade, like basically arcade versus mode game.
Hmm.
So it's full screen wrap. Jump around, guns fall from the sky. You collect better guns. Try to take each other out. It's a last monkey standing type game. Each round, the rounds are 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, spikes come in from the sides of the screen and force an end to the round. So it's kind of just who can live the longest. It's a really fun and enjoyable game, but the whole pandemic and being locked inside has made me completely hate that game and working on it because I
Oh.
started making that game for my indie game dev meetup that I went to once a month,
Mm.
which was the first time I had had like an active like friend group in 6 years. So I kind of was making it along with that, enjoying that, and then when the whole thing kind of got shut down, I've had no desire to work on a local multiplayer only game for the last year. So I keep trying to pick it back up, but it goes in and out. It's the one everyone's waiting for, but
Yeah.
it's in and out.
I'm sorry to hear that. Like, I also had a local meetup here in Toronto at Gamma Space. There's actually a bit of drama here in the city with the fact that the local government said like, okay, we're going to create this place called the Visual Toronto Media Arts Center, and then they gave up on building it, gave up on continuing it any further, and then refused to turn over title to all the spaces they had promised. And then like they just succeeded in getting title, and then the pandemic happened, and then they've lost the title, and it's like I don't know if this place is going to be able to have a physical location for the foreseeable future, even when the pandemic ends. And
Yep.
I know that it just like as much as I love getting my game in front of people and trying to get it in front of a few streamers when I'm not streaming myself, there's just nothing quite like seeing people play your game in person, and especially if it's a multiplayer game like the one you're describing, how much fun it is to actually like get in the game and play together with them.
Yeah, I built up like for me getting into game dev was kind of me again opening up and because I had a child, not incredibly young, but I had a child while I was still in college. So I kind of lost a lot of friends throughout, just by being in a different stage in life for a lot of times. So my child's now old enough that, she's on her own, doing her own thing a lot of the time. So I can, or starting several years ago, I was like, okay, I can start kind of branching out and doing more things and just, having a lot, doing just things I've wanted to do and getting into game design and all of that. I just found a group of like-minded people that I enjoy. And luckily, like I live in Southern California. So I live in an area with a high density of, people that are into game dev and really talented people that are into game dev, which is even cooler. So we have a lot of just like local game nights. We were organizing at a local brewery. We were having playtest nights where basically we'd have a bunch of people come and set up computers on the patio of a microbrewery, and everyone could have drinks and play games and just chat. They were great times. We ran little conventions. We had our monthly meetups. So we did a lot of like in-person game dev stuff, and that's what I really got into at first. So the whole pandemic really changed a lot of that.
I mean, it sounds like the community is large enough, and I'm sure there's going to be enough other people who want that you're going to be able to go back to it once everything
Oh
lets
yeah,
up.
we're all chomping at the bit. I mean, we've continued it all. We still meet like our whole group. We still do our meetup once a month. The rest of us have started like doing like weekly calls basically just to keep ourselves sane. Um, So no, we've kept the group together. We're just waiting until we can start doing events and stuff again. Because honestly, for me, that was my favorite thing. The showing and exhibitioning was my number one favorite thing to go do. Um, getting it in front of just like random people, because Monkeys with Guns was specifically made as a showpiece for conventions. You
Right.
know, when you go and display at conventions, you want something. Because I've been to IndieCade, I go to a bunch of those different conventions, and it's always really hard to get someone to sit down and play an RPG
Yeah.
or play your puzzle game. You know what I mean? Like people play down for a second, but that's not really what people want in like that kind of environment. So I made a game that's like, no, it takes 30 seconds to play. You can run, jump, and shoot. It's incredibly easy to understand. You watch one round, you know what's going on, go. And I built this game to be as simple as possible, to be played as easily as possible in that situation. And not being able to test it or like experiment with it or do anything in that environment
Yeah.
has made it really hard to work on, basically.
Yeah. Well, I think it's totally healthy to just like step away from it and work on other things and just keep it on the back burner, and hopefully once the in-person events start to kick up again, then you'll be able to resume production.
Yep.
Perhaps not right away, but once it feels like it calls to you.
Yep. So now I'm making a mobile platformer too.
Nice.
Just random stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You just if you're an artist, you got to work on the art that makes you happy, right? Like you can't force yourself to work on something that your heart's not in it, because if you're not enjoying it, then how do you expect anyone else to?
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, I've been rambling. I am one to do that, so I'm sure there's probably more questions.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, chat. If anyone has any questions they would like to ask Vimlark, please do submit them. But yeah, I think you've kind of addressed this, but talking about plans for this game going forward, are you going to be going back in and touching up some of the things, redoing the
I'm
tutorial?
I'm gonna fix it once we can. Like I'm gonna fix the glaring issues.
Mhm.
But I'm definitely not one to go back to games. If you look at my itch page, there are many. Like I burn through projects. I basically make something and move on to the next. Generally,
Mhm.
it would take an amazing outcry for me to actually go back and do a lot more with it. Um, Although this one, and also this one, because it's a collaboration too, I generally work on most projects alone just because of my weird work schedule. So this was more just a fun coming together of me and a friend. We made a thing because we did another game together for the Wowie Jam a little while ago too, and that was a lot of fun.
Nice. Do you have a particular favorite game jam?
Um, like recurring game jam or just because I
Anything.
think I think at this point I've done somewhere around in the range of like 30 to 40 game jams
Oh,
in the last
gosh.
like 2 years, 3 years, 2.5 years, something like that. I've done at least one game jam a month this year so far.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of like, I mean, I have to say the Game Maker's Toolkit last year has got to be one of my favorites because I did well. That was an experience for sure. That was Never thought it would happen. Never thought it was gonna like it helped bump my YouTube channel. It helped bump my Twitch streaming. Like it was a huge, amazing thing for me. Um, Other than that, I'd say we used to have a local 12-hour game jam here at a local
Whoa.
esports arena that my buddies ran. So we would go in once a month, have a 12-hour game jam of all of us just hanging out, basically making a small game. Every hour they would add a level of scope creep to the jam. So like every hour they would
Huh.
add another thing that you had to add to the game for like 7 of the hours. And it was just meant to be like a crazy creative design challenge that you all hung out, had a good time. And my favorite one was probably the one my daughter actually came. So my 12-year-old daughter came, or no, she was 13 at the time. My 13-year-old daughter came and did art for me. So she was my artist all day. She hung in there for 12 hours and produced art, which was like that's not a short amount of time to work. So
No, I mean, like, that's not a short amount of time, like, especially when you're a kid trying to, like, I can imagine, like, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old having trouble focusing that long. 12, 13, I can imagine myself putting that much effort into something, but I imagine that must have been an absolutely incredible experience working together with your own kid like that.
yeah, it was just cool.
We do have a couple questions coming in from the chat. So, as a veteran jammer, do you have a set schedule for your time? How much do you deviate from that? Frequently forget to sleep. Oh boy.
Yeah, I definitely try to sleep. This time I didn't sleep, but not because I like this. This was completely different. This time the only reason that I stayed up all night was because I screwed up so badly in the first half of the jam. Like I basically messed the code up to the point where I had to redo it. Um, so that was just an entirely I screwed up. Normally I try and work like if it's so my favorites are week-long jams specifically because it gives you time for life. 48-hour jams they're a grind. They really are.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to make something polished and produced. They're a grind, and I try not to do them as much as I can because they suck. um, like I like a week-long jam, and for a week-long jam, I plan to make a 48-hour game.
Mhm.
So like I'll in a week long, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna spend 3 hours a night, 4 hours a night, kind of working on this plugging away. Um, I'm in a very different spot than a lot of people because at the moment I'm kind of I mean, I stream and do like this YouTube stuff kind of full time at the moment.
Yeah.
I've still been furloughed from my job for like the last year, so this has been sustaining at least enough.
Good.
So I have more time to spend than a lot of people nowadays, just because that's kind of my job. So like, I'll spend a 5.5 hour stream working on the game too, which changes a lot. But back when I started doing game jams while still having a full time job, the big one was I liked week long jams ideally, and I'd plan for 48-hour jams so I could work 3 to 4 2 to 3 4 hours a night, and then a little bit more on the weekends. But overall, I try to not cram in. Also, make sure to take breaks. Like even if you're in a deep session, like even while I was doing those things, like I still got up and took like a 10-minute break. You need to reset. So still walk up and just get away from your computer, stand up, walk around the house, do something. It doesn't matter, but make sure to take some breaks, even if you have to grind, because otherwise your focus goes away and you end up having to redo everything.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I'm always advocating for people to like get a full night's rest and just yeah, you gotta practice self care, right? Simple as
And
that.
eat, eat.
Yes. Three
I am
meals.
definitely guilty of forgetting to eat. I'm awful at that.
I'm very lucky that it's sort of a split between during a given jam, I will try to like make some sandwiches to at least cover lunches for myself ahead of time, and other than that, my partners have been very gracious in taking care of like dinner prep, and then we just handle breakfast together. So
Nice.
oh boy. The hard level is so much harder. Like not only is it more meals, but it
The
feels like
timer's
the
faster too.
yeah.
Yeah, the hard is overall like basically at the last second. Wipeout was like, I think the normal needs to be a little easier, so I made the timer tick down every 1.5 seconds as opposed to 1 second. Yeah, the balance is way off. So that's another thing when I go back in and fix a couple of the bugs afterwards,
Mhm.
I'm going to adjust the balance as well.
Yeah, no, that's a. I think the pacing on the normal, like I don't know. Are you going to add in an easy mode in addition to normal and hard?
I don't like putting easy modes in games because nobody likes them.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Mentally, I don't think that like nobody likes to think they have to play on easy mode.
Right.
So I always basically take whatever I would consider to be the easy. Like I generally make the hard mode what I play,
Yeah.
which is as the developer, we're always better at our own game, so we're always going to make it harder. So I
Right.
usually make the hard mode basically that's effectively
That's the
developer
developer
mode.
difficulty. Yeah.
Yeah, that's if you've made the game, this is fun and easy. And then I make it easier and call that normal because I just nobody likes to I don't want to make people feel like they have to go down to normal. I think that it makes it can inadvertently shame people even if you're not thinking that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I made a big mistake in a game that I made, Robo's World, Zarmak Fortress. I had difficulties that went from beginner, easy, normal,
Hmm.
hard, expert. And it's like, oh my god, no one wanted to play on beginner, although that was definitely the right
Yep.
level to start on. I like the recent trend in calling the lowest difficulty on games story, because, like, yeah, I do want to play on the story difficulty.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good one.
Matt Pack is saying call it casual. May as well call it filthy
Nupo.
casual while you're at it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, and that also goes back to like the game jam tips as well of like making
Hmm.
it easy, making it playable and stuff. Because I watched people bash their head against some games I had that had an easy mode. They bash their head against the like normal difficulty, right?
Yeah.
But then I made a normal mode and a hard mode, and I would watch people play the normal mode, and they'd go to the difficult mode and start dying immediately, and
Hmm.
go, "Oh, well, I beat the normal mode. I'm good," and leave happy
Yeah.
because they felt they completed the actual challenge. Like, oh, this is an optional harder challenge I don't need to worry about. And that mentally, I mean, psychology and people's perceptions is a big part of game design. My one of my main focuses, I've been a graphic designer, an advertising designer, and a UX designer for 10 years now. So people's perceptions of how they interact and play with stuff is something that I actually care about a lot. So yeah, I actively try to never use easy mode because I feel like it can inadvertently make people feel lesser and unhappy.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I should have like phrased the question differently, but I guess what I meant to say was you are going to be adding in a tutorial, right, which is effectively going to be the sort of initiated, like,
I may
that's
or may
the
not.
easy.
That's Yeah, I may or may not. We'll see
Okay.
if I have time. It depends how difficult it is to set it up. That's kind of the
Right.
big one because I'm already on to other projects. I've made the dev like for me. I'm kind of everything I make is twofold. It's a game and then a devlog about the game, which
Right.
goes on YouTube because that's kind of my main thing. And then once I've done that, especially with game jams, the video's been made. I'm not going to make another video for the updates, so
Hmm.
it's kind of the time spent on it isn't as important after the video. As weird as I know, it's kind of sad to say that, but like
Hmm.
I look at game jams as just fun little experiences. Like it's meant to be a 10-minute experience. How much time
Yeah.
do you really want to invest in a 10-minute experience?
Yeah, like unless a game is done so phenomenally well that you're going to develop it into a full-on sale product. I mean, I've definitely had that experience where, like, oh my gosh, I made a game on itch.io that got like hundreds of views. This is amazing. Let me add more levels to it. And then I post like, okay, World 3 has been added to this game, and then it's like, I get 10 more people playing it. It's like, wow, that
Yeah.
didn't really feel like it was worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the time is kind of the big feature there. Is like, do I like I'm most of these games, these mechanics were fun to put together, the twin stick shooter with the overcooked style mechanic. That was a fun and interesting way to put them together. Is it worth developing into a full thing? Probably not. Like
Yeah.
it's enjoyable. It's a fun little like chaotic experience. And what I would want to do is if I tried it again, I would want to do it in another jam or in another session and rebuild the whole thing anyway, and not keep building off of this.
Yeah,
Is
makes
kind
total
of the
sense.
way I usually go. Because I would rather just start it from scratch and make it right. Because
Yeah.
this one definitely isn't. I've learned a lot from this, and that's how I look at the game jams. They've taught me about the mechanics. Because I also do I used to do game dev challenges where I would make a game in 3 hours. Used to do this really frequently on stream. And those were to just play with design ideas. It's like, okay, let's throw together, like I've got one was like it was like Portal Breakout and Pong, right? Okay, so I got to combine all three of those into one game, and it made for a fun little mechanic that I'll probably go back to at some point. But it kind of lets me make something and then just kind of sit and ruminate on it for a while, and then I'll go back and like pull from it every now and then. Usually, my Ludum Dare is pull from those games.
Nice. Yeah, the game that I made, Allocate, was an 8 or 9 year old game idea.
Yep.
Just had it filed away in Google Doc, and when it came time to make something. I spent 3 hours bashing my head trying to come up with something, and it's like, no, you know what? Let's just go through the backlog, and yep, this one seems fun. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the fun things of game jams is they let you try out and experiment different things. So it's like, why not use these? I mean, I've reused many of the same ideas multiple times to develop them over the year,
Mhm.
over the time. And it's a different game every time. It doesn't play exactly the same. I'm not using the same thing, but I may be using like one or two core mechanics. My mobile game that I'm making right now is it's I don't like on-screen controls for mobile, so it's just two
Yeah,
buttons. You touch the left-hand side of the screen, the player turns around, you touch the right hand, and it jumps. And it's a
nice.
normal platformer, but the character is always moving and it bounces off of walls. My Game Maker's Toolkit Jam game was a character that runs a robot that runs around and
Hmm.
bounces off of walls like that. I did a previous game jam to that was basically literally the game I'm making for mobile because I had that idea before. So I've kind of just been keep developing like, okay, how do I make this mechanic fun? How do I
Yeah,
massage this thing until I figure out like, okay, I know how to make this mechanic work well and sing.
absolutely. I mean, the again, to my most recent project here, Allocate, the core mechanic of the game is power allocation, but the sort of secondary mechanic is manual targeting with your turrets. Because, like, unlike most tower defense games where you just kind of sit and watch it happen, I wanted the player to have the ability to manually dictate the targets of the turrets. And as an added bonus, I made it so that the range like is 1.5 times larger when you manually target stuff. So that's a mechanic that I literally lifted from an earlier game that I made, another tower defense game.
Nice. Yeah,
Uh,
just like we learn, use it.
exactly. It's like, oh,
People
this
get too hung
mechanic
up on
feels
like we need to
good.
make a whole new idea. It's like you don't need to make a whole
No.
new idea every time, like because then you're guessing every time.
Yeah, yeah, go with what works. Don't reinvent the wheel. But we do have a fair number of questions coming in from chat, and I want to make sure I don't get skip past any of these. So Safety Dad is
Oh,
asking, because you mentioned like taking breaks and pacing yourself out. Do you have any specific activities that you would suggest to avoid the fatigue that sometimes comes with working on anything or any one thing for long sittings?
Um, I'm really bad at this. I'm definitely one of those say as I do, not or say do as I say, not as I do kind of people when it comes to this
Yeah,
because
yeah.
my work habits are awful. I I am definitely a burn the candle at both ends, burn out, and then take a week off kind of a person. Like I am a go until you can't anymore, and then don't work, feel guilty about it, and then get back to work. It's not a healthy lifestyle. I'm trying to fix it. Um, but in terms of like just like taking breaks and like activities to do, I like to get up and honestly for me, I go and play little games. Like that's actually my ideal time to go and like play mobile games is when I need to take a break because
Mhm.
I find mobile games infinitely fascinating, and I know people give a lot of like game devs look down on mobile games and things like that, but there's a lot of very interesting concepts and interactions there because they're meant again for short periods of time, and that's kind of my main focus. So I love like kind of just like I'll go and sit on the couch, I'll go sit on the couch, or honestly, a big part of my house, like I go and try and find and chase the cat around, play with the cat, or But I have a family. I'll get up and go talk to my wife. It's nice. It's nice when I get to see her every now and then. Um,
Every now and then,
just occasionally.
just check the pulse, make sure still heart's still beating.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of breaks, honestly, I kind of like I try to turn my brain off. I'll either play a little game or I'll like watch a show, um, watch a YouTube video, just put my feet up in general. Like I may not even leave my desk, but I'll get a snack, put my feet up, and watch a video, and not actually minimize the window so I can't see. Even if I don't leave my desk, I try to make sure that I'm not looking at it
Hmm.
for at least 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. So
Does the
we got
cheesecake become a taco? I think it becomes a hot dog. I don't know. Vault did weird things with the art.
we've got another question up further back from Vortex of Purple. How much of the time do you tend to use? I guess just like as a percentage out of the like I really like the idea of taking a week long jam and putting 48 hours into it. So for a
Yeah.
48-hour jam, what do you? I guess it's probably a little bit more than your average percentage wise allocation.
Honestly, it depends on the jam, really.
Mm.
It's all like this one. I used, I'd say, probably 90% of the time, just grinding on it. I mean, I don't have as much to show for it as I would like to for spending that much time on it, but when you have to redo something halfway through,
Hmm.
it's what happens. Um, just because this one was a big one.
Hmm.
A lot of the times, I'll do a week-long jam and I'll make something in a day. It kind of depends on, again, because I do so many jams. It's kind of like if you think about people with lots of tattoos, right? Every individual tattoo doesn't matter that much as you get covered. Like the more tattoos you have, the less significant each one becomes. And I know people that have like tons of tattoos that like, they'll let anybody just tattoo crap on them. They don't care. It's like you're not going to notice it. Like there's so much there. And I do so many game jams that like sometimes I'm just like, this one's fun, I'll make it 3 hours. This one's fun, I'll make it a day. I mean, and I'll throw stuff together. It depends on the size and the scope, really, for me, honestly. Um, on average, I'd say I probably put in. I mean, yeah, I couldn't. I don't even know if I give an average, it's probably just going to pull it to like half or somewhere around there because
Hmm.
sometimes I go full bore into it, and sometimes I put a little bit in just to make something for fun. I
Yeah,
mean,
totally.
also in a jam like I did the Try Jam like 2 weeks ago. That's a 3 hour game jam. Yeah, I used all 3 hours. Would that count as 100%? That would skew the numbers, I think.
Yeah, no, it just varies to according to the scope of the jam, and it totally makes sense. Um, all right. So, Burrito Claire noticed when he's working on 36 hours. He's hungry, tired. Yeah. Um, let's see. Do we have any other questions from further back? Um, yeah, there's all the comments about that. Um, so, what's the game on screen? Oh, Matt Pack. I'm playing Vimlark's Eldritch Eateries, and I will repost the link in chat because I realized it was a while ago. I hope I remember to post it up earlier on. I think I did just before. Yeah, there I did just before you came on. Um, yeah, so there was the cheese. The cat becomes. It looks like a hot dog to me, but a taco probably would
I'm
make
pretty
more
sure it
sense.
becomes a hot dog.
Hmm.
I don't know. I can't tell if that's Vault just messing with me and basically making it really difficult for me to teach the player that,
Hmm.
or if his Twitch chat made him do it, because there's also that too.
Yeah.
Both of us are streamers and did a bunch of streaming and streamed a lot of this while we were working on it. So there's a lot of things that, I mean, I'm sure as you stream, you sometimes make decisions to appease the Twitch chat because fun.
I would love to get to a point where that's been the case. So far, I think I had like maybe two or three people tuning in like at a time. I got some great feedback though, so I like super appreciate that, and I hope going forward I'll be able to sort of like indulge chat some of their wild ideas. Um, but oh yeah, we've got another question here from Rana asking, how do you manage game dev and life and your job?
Uh, Poorly at the moment, but right now, again, I'm kind of doing this full time at the moment
Hmm.
between the Twitch streaming and the YouTubes. I've been lucky enough to get some more sponsors and stuff coming in for like YouTube videos and streaming and all of that recently. I'm in a very lucky position at the moment where I'm not I'm not like doing amazing. I'm not anywhere near what I was making at my old job, but I'm in a sustainable hold right now, especially since I still technically have my old job. I've been furloughed for a year and a half now. So, like, I was furloughed last April. Um, so I've been doing this to just sustain. Before that, it was I I'm a night owl, so I would stay up. I would work. I would do game dev stuff from like 8 p.m. until 1 in the morning, and that was what and then on the weekends I would if I didn't have something else I had to do with the family, because I've also I've got a wife, I've got a child and all that, so it's a lot of just you find the time where you can. Right now I'm in the lucky enough position where it's kind of my job at the moment, so I'm putting a lot more into it. I mean, the game dev itself isn't my job, the content creation is, but the game
Hmm.
dev is part of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one thing that people like. I'm not technically making money and a living in the games industry. I'm doing it through like content creation, but game dev just happens to be the medium that I'm using for my content.
Yeah, and that's awesome because I love in a world where so many people are streaming of like what's the next big game? Let's all hop in on and stream on that. I love that it's possible. Like it's a real inspiration to me just starting out as a streamer. That's like, hey, look, you actually can do this. You can have a life where you make games on stream and you know right now I still have a day job that I have. They've graciously allowed to give me the week off to try to strike while the iron's hot here with the GMTK jam. But yeah, I think it's in, if game dev is a big passion of yours, and I would hope that you just continue to grow and that maybe it does end up sustaining you. And if that were the case, do you think that you would like double down on it, or do you think that you would try to maintain like the day job and the sort of like streaming in the evenings?
I'm moving towards it. I'm going for it right now. Kind of like just figuring out. I'm having to rework my entire workflow
Mm-hmm.
because the amount of time it takes me to produce a video right now. Work time. Like I think it took about we calculated out for to be able to crank out the Game Maker's Toolkit video took the production of the video alone was 12 to 14 hours, and that's me working fast
Mm-hmm.
at this point. But I need to get that shorter. So a lot of it is I need to produce more content. I need to get more stuff out. So it's more of I need a new workflow and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Editing's a nightmare. I don't know if you've ever had to edit a bunch of videos, but it is one of
Yeah.
the slowest, most boring, tedious processes that just ever did live.
Yeah, I made a course on Udemy a while back, and I was trying to go for like a high level of production on it. So I was doing like going through and editing so much of them. It's like, man, this is scarcely worth my time for all of the effort that I'm putting into it.
Yeah, I mean that's why I don't do tutorials on YouTube anymore.
Mm-hmm.
People still ask me to make tutorials, but the problem is the amount of editing time you have to do versus how much people pay attention to them is just unfortunately not worth it.
I'm getting a disproportionate number of microwaved slimes this time around.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. I'm wondering if that's just the random number generator getting screwed up. I mean, it is random, so it
Mm-hmm.
does pull from a list of there's in terms of combinations, there's 6 different creatures you can have and
Yeah,
3 different preparations for each of them. So whatever whatever that is, in
six
terms
to
of
the
that's all
three.
the options.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot. So it's kind of surprising that I got that many microwaved slimes.
It is also the built-in construct random number generator, so I'm sure it's probably not as robust as, if people do like crazy their own generators.
Hmm. Oh my gosh. C.R. Gray mentions the concept of recipes, like mixing multiple things together. That's,
Yeah, that was cut for time. That was
yeah.
definitely one of those ones of just like that's not going to be possible in the 48 hours.
Hmm.
That would be cool though. I did want that,
Hmm.
but yeah.
And then Safety Data is asking, are the random numbers a random range, or are you pulling from a queue?
It's pulling from a queue. So basically, there's 18 different recipes. So it
Hmm.
pulls out. It basically chooses a random. So it's basically got two factors to it. So it pulls a random item. So it pulls one of the 6, and then it
Hmm.
pulls a random preparation type, which is 1 and 3,
Yeah.
and then combines those together.
Nice. Well, I think I'll give chat just a little bit longer to throw a question or two our way, but I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there any project or anything, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just majorly White Vault, who did all the art for this game. If you think this art is adorable, this is his art. Like this is the type of thing he makes.
Mhm.
He makes like I don't know. He and I both have a very similar style. Like we really like cartoony pixel art, and I
Mhm.
think there's a big thing with like pixel art recently of like making it more and more detailed and things. But this kind of like cartoony comic, not comic book, but more like Saturday morning cartoon style,
Yeah.
is definitely something that both of us really like, and he is fantastic at it. And I think more people need to see it. So, yeah, check him out. He's really cool. He streams. He just started making YouTube videos as well. Um, and he's the sweetest dude you'll ever meet.
Nice. I'll make sure to drop a link to stuff in the chat because I believe. Oh, I can't just serve a slime there. Yeah, the link to White Vault stuff. Well, this is the HIO page, but is there here? I'll grab a Twitter link as well.
Does he not have his Twitch linked in there? That
Let
jerk.
me
It is linked
see.
in the game too.
Okay. Oh yeah, WhiteVaultStudio.tv. No, that doesn't seem to work. Okay, it's linked
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
tell him his link's
game.
broken.
Let's see if I inevitably failed. and to get kicked back to the main menu. Okay, I'll grab.
Hit Q in the game.
Oh yeah, okay.
That should take you back to the menu, and then in the
hmm.
credits, you should be able to click the Twitch button for him.
I tried pressing Q.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I'm sorry, it's tab in this game. It's not Q.
Okay, there we go. And then credits, and then.
Oh, Piranha's got it in chat too.
Okay, thank you. White Walls. Kent Evans also got it. Cool. He's streaming right now, actually.
Yeah, he's a White Vault's an awesome guy. He streams, I think. Yeah, so like right now, I think he's doing. Is this OC? Like he does every Fridays. It's not Friday, but his schedule might be messed up. Like he does other people's pixel art. If you have pixel art, he'll help people out. Like he's again just a sweetheart, and he is super into pixel art. And if you like pixel art, he wants to know you.
Nice. All right. Well, Vimlark, thank you so much for taking a huge chunk out of your day to have this conversation with me. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's been fun. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
And hope everything goes well for your future game dev endeavors. And stay well, stay safe. And
Cool, thanks.
Love to have another conversation like this another time, whenever you're up for it.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Have a good one. Talk to you later.
Good one. Bye-bye.